So this is the second time I've done this today, so hopefully it will be slightly better this time around. The microphone works for one, which is always a good start. And I'd also like to apologise for not wearing shoes quite as cool as the last two speakers. Towels was something else. I don't know if you saw them. I tweeted it, so if you didn't see them, lovely purple shoes, have a look. So this presentation, which should last 15 minutes, is the 6 questions you need to ask before you start digital marketing. Now, the first thing you need to know is that it's not actually about digital marketing, it's about just marketing. There seems to be this demarcation that digital marketers throw up to say, oh, it's different, we're not just marketing, we're something different. For me, and you'll see as we start to go through why I say that, I think it all boils down to the same principles, and then as you start to look at your tactical executions, that's where it changes. So here's a lovely picture of me. It was very cold that day and I didn't feel very well. The TomorrowLab is a digital marketing agency in Belfast. I'm from there, but that's where we're based, and we do a lot of work across Ireland, a little bit in London as well. Used to work in professional sport and UTV. I write a sports blog, which is about the business of sport more than match reports. Do a little bit for Irish Tech News as well. I think they're involved with sponsoring today, so I thought I'd mention that. But the important part here is that I did a master's in marketing, and that's not just to tell you because I like to tell everyone I've got a master's now and I wore the funny hat again. It forms a foundation stone of what this presentation is about. During that study period, we did some research with one of the professors there into some elements of marketing, and we came up, or the professor came up with this rather lovely, well-researched diagram. It was rigorous and is rigorous, but it's also entirely useless. It looks lovely and it's so complicated that somebody wrote a thesis on that, and at 20,000 words they still didn't have enough to explain it. So after I'd finished that, we then took that away and started doing some research, and academia is brilliant, business is brilliant, and everything would be much more brilliant if the two met in the middle a little bit more. So I took this, and with the team at the TomorrowLab, we started working it through and trying to make it into something more useful for people. And it turned out to be this thing, and because we were a marketing agency, we called it A-Star, because we thought it sounded cool. But it's a process that we go through with clients. It's audit, strategy, tactics, activity, and results. And then we kind of follow it around in a circular process so that everything keeps getting better. After about 6 or 9 months of working through this and developing it, we got ISO 9001 accreditation, which is about it's about processes in agencies. Well, in businesses, sorry, not just agency. So we'd spent a lot of time doing that. So it's basically said, look, this is rigorously put together. It's not just something sort of made up on the back of a fag packet on the way down here on the train. So the 6 questions fall into 6 basic categories. Customer, context, competence, competition, content, and capital. They all begin with C, so I can remember them when I'm talking to people about them. And what I'll do now is sort of break down each one of them so you can see what the question is. There could actually be 600 questions. As you start to work through this, you'll see how it starts to develop and why you need to ask more and more questions. But the very first question you need to ask in each of those areas is what I'm talking about here. The very first one is, who are your customers? Now, does anybody want to guess what the answer is I get most often when I ask people about this and say, who are your customers? Go on, I know it's the end of the day, somebody can have a guess. And if you were here earlier, don't ruin it. People buy. If only everybody said that, that would be wonderful. But the most popular answer I get is, everyone's my customer. And that makes me want to kill people. You hear it so many times from people, everyone's our customer. We've got this wonderful product that does A, B, and C, and everybody wants to buy it. And the truth of the matter is, no one gives a shit. So it's the end of the day, I'm going to start swearing a lot. It makes me want to throw people out of the window when they say everybody could be our customer. It's not the case. So your customers are, exactly, it's people who buy your products. And what do they look like? This is a thing called the Kuhn Mela, which is the largest peacetime gathering in history. Every 12 years, it's kind of dictated by the lunar cycle and various other things to do with Jupiter and Venus and things I don't quite understand. But roughly every 12 years, 150 million people in India, just outside of Allahabad, gather at the banks of the Ganges to kind of cleanse themselves and wash all their sins away. It's a 2-week festival sort of thing where lots of things happen. On one day, the main day, the kind of Christmas day, if you will, of this festival, 30 million people gather around the banks of the Ganges. If everybody buys your product, if everybody wants to buy your product, wait until the next Kuhn Miller, turn up, sell your product to 130 million people, then go and retire, buy yourself a boat and sit on an island and cruise around it all day. The fact is, it's not everybody who buys your product. Doesn't matter what you sell, it doesn't matter how interesting, how exciting, how brilliant it is, 99% of the population of the world do not care about it. So you need to really start to drive down and understand your customers. If you were sat here when Tal was on from LinkedIn, he talked about persona-based marketing. And this is the first question. When you start to say, who are your customers? This is what we're talking about. This is a section from the TomorrowLab's marketing plan, where we've broken down our customers into a number of sections. These are just 3 of them. So we've got Director David, Marketing Mary, and Owner Ola. I, as a Yorkshireman, get laughed at by everyone in our office when I pronounce Irish names, which is why I think Ola was given that name, just so I struggle with it. And we understand that we work with 3, roughly, there's a few more, but 3 of our main customer types. They're a digital director of a big company who's very technically proficient, probably somebody a bit like Jamie, knows what he's talking about, really results driven, comes to you with a very clear brief and says, right, I've got this, this and this, I've got this much money to spend, this is the time window, these are the results that I want, can you do it? That's one customer. We've got Marketing Mary, who's a marketing manager, more of a generalist, much more, look, I've got this much to spend, I'm doing a bit on TV, I'm doing a bit of this, but I really want to know what you're doing in this social media space and wants to find out more and really wants to know everything about what you're doing. That's the middle one. And then the business owner is somebody who looks at you and thinks, if I spend this money with you, I can't go skiing at Christmas. So what are you going to give me back in return for that? Each of those 3 people needs an entirely different message, because if we start talking to Ola in a way that we talk to David, they're just not going to be interested. We're going to switch people off. So we work through persona marketing and understand who our customer base is, and from that we then craft all our marketing and all our communications towards these people. And that's one of the key things of what we do. Just one point, if you are doing persona work, personas can turn into the mission statements of the marketing team. When someone says, what's your mission statement? And everyone looks at each other and goes, I'm invisible, nobody asks me what the mission statement is. Is it a business? Because I don't know. And if you don't, one of the things we use is we use alliteration when we're naming them, and it's just a really easy naming convention that makes people remember them. If you call them Marketing Mary and Director David, people start to remember them. If that's just David, Mary and Ola, which one was Mary again? Is Mary there? Oh, no, that's all. Just use a little bit of alliteration and it does help people remember them. The second question is, how is it done in your industry? Every industry is different. So whether you're in the games industry, whether you're in the legal industry, whether you're in the car industry, whether you're in the chair hire industry, every industry has their own context, their own things that are done, especially in that industry. And people talk about things in a different way. They might use different acronyms or whatever. And the thing that you find is that makes a lot of industries homogenous. So I just did a search on Google Ads the other day when I was putting these slides together, and I just typed in car ads. Now these are all lots of different brands up here, but from where you're sitting, they probably all look identical. You've got a picture of a car, you've got a lovely outdoor scene, you've got a picture of a car and an outdoor scene, and another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. Oh look, you've got a big animal, and a big animal, and a big animal. That's what the car industry looks like in their advertising. And this rolls through into the perfume industry. It's big budget, it's a pretty face that you might have seen somewhere before, and it's if you wear our products you will look this glamorous. That's basically the message that they're telling you. Now that's the way that all the industries work, and every context starts to be a little bit similar. So if you've got a product, and unless you've got more money than everybody else, which you probably don't have, most businesses tend not to do, unless your product's better than everybody else's, most companies think their product's better than everyone else's, but the question is, do your customers think it's better? Possibly, possibly not. Do they care? Possibly, possibly not. And unless you sold somewhere different, which in these sorts of days everyone sells online, unless you've got a Tesco listing and nobody else is selling in Tesco, the fact is you're probably selling in similar sorts of places. So the only way most businesses can stand out and really stand out is in their promotion. So if you know that everybody looks like this in their communications and in their marketing, if you know they've got more money than you and they can do it better than you, why not do it differently? So you need to look at standing out. And the phrase I used last time was, when nothing goes right, go left. Because if you can stand out on promotion, once you understand the context of your industry and you know what everybody else does, if you do something a little bit different, you stand out. Has anyone seen the Dollar Shave Club launch video? That's about 4 years old now. So if you haven't got it in, but if you're interested, go and have a look for Dollar Shave Club. watched the video, and they completely changed how people sell razors. You spend $1 a month and they send you razors. And the guy basically takes the piss out of all Gillette ads without ever mentioning Gillette. Now that's about 4 years old now, and it's taken Gillette until 2 months ago to be able to respond to that, and they've started doing razors by post, which took them 4 years to do because somebody, a small startup company, stood up and started taking a piss out of their marketing. That's how long it takes big companies to evolve and to change what they do, because they're not set up to do that. So if you can stand out, you don't need a bigger budget, you have to do it on promotion, so you really have to understand the context of what goes on in your industry. This can be, when you're onto competence, it probably should have been resource, but it wouldn't have been a C, therefore it wouldn't fit in the model, so it's competence. This is probably the most difficult one you'll have to deal with if you've got an internal team, or if you're a small business and there's just 1 or 2 of you, it can be really difficult to do. Because you have to be brutally honest about what you can do in-house and what you're going to have to pay somebody else to do. And if you've got somebody sat in your office who says, I'm a graphic designer, there's a really thing saying, oh, okay, let's use their graphic design. And then they start showing you things like that. Oh, okay. And say, no, we've got a copywriter. And they put stuff like that out. And then they say, no, we've got a social media person. And then they're a legal firm and you look at the social media feed and it's full of fluffy cats. Now, people think because we're an agency that when we're talking about this, they're thinking, there's Andy. He's looking at us spending more money with him. He's after our money. He wants us to spend more money with him. But you have to be really, really honest. Because you might think, I can't damage John's ego and tell him that his copywriting is not very good. Or I can't tell Jan that she can't take photographs for shit, but, you know, because it's all like she's been taking them for years. If you start down a digital marketing strategy and you roll out into the tactics, and you start posting stuff on social media and it's crap, your audience will bloody quickly tell you this is terrible, and you will have lost them. And you will just become a victim of ridicule overnight. They will just rip into you. The general public sat behind the keyboards where nobody's, no one's looking and no one's shouting over them. They don't have to filter it. They will just rip into your content. So it's much better to have a nice conversation with someone and go, look, we're going to bring professionals in, but we've got training for you in 6 months' time and we might try and get it back to you. It's much better to do that than for them to come back in on a Monday morning, look at 8,000 comments below, they're saying, who wrote this rubbish, it's muck. And then you'll have your social media strategist going, this is the most viral post we've ever done. You say, yeah, but they're all negative. Everybody hates you. So you have to be really clear that, have you got the staff to do this in-house? And if you haven't, that's when you need to start looking to say, what else am I going to do? Where can I bring this in from? And it's not just agencies, Fiverr can help, and there's lots of other places you can go for graphic design and video production and all that sort of stuff. Competition. You'll notice that this isn't written as, who is your competition? It's, who has your money? There is only a finite amount of money around in the world. So someone has your money. So if you have a product, if it's a little bit different, if you have a direct competitor, they've got some of your money. But then you say to some people, who's your competition? And they go, we don't really have any direct competition. John Luke's back. Everybody has competition. It might not be a direct competitor selling the same product at the same price point in the same place and promoting it in the same way, but there is competition because the money's not getting any bigger. The money's not falling from the sky and people going, oh look, there's an extra couple of €100 I can pay for something. There is money in certain places, but you have to take it from someone else. So you have to look and say, right, who is the competition? Where do we find them? You can go back to using some old marketing things that you've probably all seen before, SWOT analysis. You probably only want to look at the T if you're looking at this. What are the threats? What are the threats to your business? What could be happening? Where could people go and spend their money? Because it is your money that you want. The reason you're doing this is because you want them to spend more with you, so it's your money that someone else has. Think of it that way and you go at this a lot more aggressively. The other piece of marketing sort of theory, this is from Porter, the granddaddy, or one of the grandees of marketing, the 5 forces model. Some of you may have seen this. This tends to come in economics or maybe higher level stuff. But there's 2 parts of this where it says threat of substitutes and threat of new entrants. That's a good way to think about it. Look at where your competition might come from. What else might people be doing? Football clubs for years have never seen swimming pools as competition to them or cinemas, but they are. When people have only got a limited budget, you're either going to the cinema or you're going to watch the football. And it's not, they're not direct competition, but they are competitors for the money that you've got. So have a look at things like that. And there's, these are just, if you've never seen this before, just Google them. There's loads of tools that take you through how to do them. The other thing you need to look at as well is search competitors. Nowhere else other than Google and Bing and search engines are Snickers and Snickers competitors. Right? One of them's workwear trousers and one of them's a chocolate bar with nuts. But if you type the word Snickers into a search engine, they don't know whether you mean the chocolate bar or the trousers. Now, that's never been a problem for anyone buying trousers. Nobody's ever gone to workwear with a chocolate bar. It doesn't work like that. But in search space, this can be a problem. So it's worth looking that if you're going to call your company something, or if you're wondering why you're not getting all the search traffic, just type your name in and see who else is there. So there might be a competitor. By the sounds of it, I tweeted the slides already on Andy Jarvis. I'll retweet them from the Tomorrow Lab. So if you do want access to them, they're there. I'll be around for the next 10 minutes if anybody does have any questions. But thank you very much for staying right till the end. Thank you.